And I hate Hatshepsut.
Nah, I hate females, man.
She stole the throne.
Off her brother. Terrible leader.
What did she even do?
She's nothing. She didn't do anything.
Nothing. She's a female.
A female, yeah. She's
I
terrible.
hate Egyptians.
Me too. What?
When we think of great leaders of the ancient world, we think of leaders like Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and even Ramses II. Yet greatness cannot just be measured by warfare. A truly great leader is one who secures legitimacy within their nation, empowers and strengthens their state and people, expands their influence, creates indefinite prosperity, and engraves their rule in achievements. What if I told you of another, their feats just as great, their legacy even greater? Allow me to introduce you to none other than Hatshepsut of Egypt, great even amongst the most prosperous males of her kingdom. Despite ruling in a society that reserved kingship for men, Hatshepsut successfully indoctrinated her authority throughout Egypt and neighboring lands, maintained Egypt's imperial prosperity and influence, redefined its economy through international trade, initiated one of the most ambitious building programs in Egyptian history, and created one of the most stable and prosperous eras within Egyptian history, a feat few pharaohs can claim. While some historians question whether her achievement was simply a credit to decisive propaganda or inherited success, the evidence overwhelmingly proves Hatshepsut was not just an effective leader, but a remarkably transformative one. A ruler who expanded the possibilities of throne and power and left a legacy that redefined what leadership in an era powered by matriarchy could achieve. To truly understand and appreciate the greatness of Hatshepsut, we must understand the roots that sprouted her undisputably successful rule. Born as the daughter of Thutmose I and Queen Ahmose, Hatshepsut possessed a particularly strong royal lineage that distinguished her from many Egyptian queens. Following her marriage to her half-brother Thutmose II, she assumed the title that raised no question of her position within the royal court, Great Royal Wife. Her gender seemingly confined her to the roles of God's wife of Amun and that of Great Royal Wife, seemingly. Upon Thutmose II's death around 1479 BCE, the throne legally passed to the next heir of the kingdom, Thutmose III, a product of Thutmose II and a lesser concubine, Set. As a result, Hatshepsut initially governed this region, a conventional role for a royal mother or senior queen, as she was. However, within a mere 7 years, she adopted the full titulary and regalia of kingship, proclaiming herself pharaoh, a transition of power that remained unprecedented within the entire history of Egyptian civilization. Historians today argue Hatshepsut's true motive. Historian Joyce Tittlesley argues that Hatshepsut's ascension was a pragmatic response to the political instability posed by a severely underage king, while others suggest her exceptional royal genealogy enabled her to legitimize an unprecedented claim to kingship. Regardless of motive, her transition from regent to pharaoh reflects both political wittiness and a calculated effort to preserve dynastic continuity and state stability during a time of severe uncertainty for the great Egyptian kingdom. At first glance, Hatshepsut's foreign policy appears to lack the conviction and prosperity typical of Egyptian pharaohs of her time. In the words of Alan Gardiner, barren of any military enterprise. What a bold shout. Unfortunately for Gardiner, Hatshepsut's achievements, thanks to evolving archaeology, remain carved quite literally into the history of Egypt's prosperous history. Her achievements, or lack of, highly discredit Gardiner's early theory, proving Hatshepsut's enduring greatness as an economic and political powerhouse of ancient civilization. The most compelling of her foreign triumphs is credited to her ambitious expedition to the land of Punt, located south of Upper Egypt. Her famous expedition is immortalized on the mortuary temple of Deir al-Bahri and is famously credited as the will of Amun. Hatshepsut highlights in these reliefs the divine nature of the expedition as a direct commandment of Amun-Ra, who obligates the expedition upon her as a divine duty to the gods. The reliefs record the return of Egyptian ships laden with gold, ebony, ivory, exotic animals, frankincense, and living myrrh trees, boldly accompanied by the triumphant inscription, "Never was a like brought for any king that has been seen since the world was." While this claim undoubtedly reflects royal self-promotion, typical, it nevertheless underscores the seemingly unprecedented scale of her expedition. Historian Donald Rutherford articulates this expedition as one of the most celebrated commercial enterprises of Egyptian history. For a claim such as this to be presented by Rutherford, who studies Egypt's broad history, this claim truly appreciates the extraordinary results and efforts of Hatshepsut's rule, highlighting her as among the most prolific expediters of the ancient world. With receipts to back it all up. Crucially, Hatshepsut achieved with what many ancient rulers pillaged through warfare through her own philosophy of diplomacy and trade instead. Hatshepsut's containment of the Nubian uprising demonstrated in itself the power of Hatshepsut's rule, being among the very few pharaohs who can claim very little altercations with Nubia. Rather than exhausting Egypt's resources through costly military campaigns, she expanded the nation's wealth through international trade, deeply increasing both Egypt's prosperity and prestige, and vastly demonstrating how a seemingly weak foreign policy remains one of her most profound testaments to prosperity and power. As the greatest leaders say, the most powerful warriors are those who achieve power and prosperity without war, and she did just that. One of the most compelling demonstrations of Hatshepsut's greatness was her ability to carve her authority into the very landscape of Egypt. Hatshepsut didn't just claim she was a great leader, she built her claim around extensive building programs and monuments, official testaments to her divinity and extensive success as a ruler. Her ability to project legitimacy and definite success to the people of Egypt, a master of propaganda. Her greatest work belongs unequivocally to her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, described by Nicholas Grimmel as one of the masterpieces of Egyptian architecture. It remains an outward declaration to contemporary and past onlookers on the sheer prosperity and success of Egypt under the rule of Hatshepsut. The temple rises dramatically from the Theban cliffs and immortalizes her achievements through reliefs of her divine birth and the Pun expedition, presenting her reign as both divinely sanctioned and immensely successful. Equally strategic was her building of the Red Chapel at Karnak, a divine tribute to Amun, where scenes of her coronation and divine relationship with Amun place her heavenly kingship at the heart of Egypt's religious life, indoctrinating her premise to the rule amongst the priests and religious cults of Egypt, especially the Amun cult. At the Spios Artemidos, Hatshepsut went further, portraying herself as the greatest restorer of Egypt itself, proclaiming she had raised up what was unfinished. After the disorder of the Hyksos invasion period, Hatshepsut definitively constructed herself as the legitimate, pious, and capable leader of Egypt, needed and deserved through her monument. The sheer scale, innovation, and enduring survival reveal a great leader who understood that true greatness lay not just in ruling Egypt, but molding how Egypt would remember her. One of Hatshepsut's most impressive achievements was not simply gaining power, but convincing an entire nation that her rule was legitimate and divinely sanctioned. As a female pharaoh in a traditionally male role, she faced a significant challenge to her authority. Her response was both strategic and effective. The divine birth reliefs at Deir el-Bahri depict the god Amun fathering Hatshepsut and declaring her destined to rule Egypt, alongside other gods such as Hathor and Thoth, while the coronation reliefs portray the gods themselves bestowing kingship upon her. Although these scenes can be viewed as royal propaganda, which she used in no small amount across Egypt, they reveal Hatshepsut's political skill in aligning herself with deeply held religious beliefs. Historian Joyce Tilsley observes that she recognized that she could not change tradition, so she manipulated it. Similarly, Egyptologist Peter Dorman argues that Hatshepsut's representation of kingship demonstrates remarkable political acumen in navigating the constraints of Egypt's tradition. Rather than be a slave to the system, Hatshepsut used it to legitimize herself amongst her predecessors, marking her rule as both divinely sanctioned and just another day at the office. Smart. Hatshepsut's 20-year rule attests to its success, marking her amongst the greatest to ever do it, the GOAT. Ultimately, these reliefs reveal far more than self-promotion. They demonstrate the lengths Hatshepsut was willing to go to firmly indoctrinate herself well into pharaohship. Exceptional political intelligence, adaptability, and leadership, qualities even the greatest leaders envy. While I can't disregard Hatshepsut's courage and success as pharaoh of Egypt, not all historians unanimously agree she was among the greatest ancient leaders of the ancient world, or any world for that matter. In fact, some critics might argue she was less a visionary ruler and more an extraordinarily successful political usurper. After all, the throne did legally belong to the young Thutmose III, yet within a mere few years, Hatshepsut had assumed the full titulary of pharaoh, adopted male royal imagery, and effectively sidelined the rightful king, her own flesh and blood. For that matter, talk about family drama. Historian Donald Redford describes her reign as a co-regency gone awry, suggesting that her rise to power represented an unprecedented usurping of authority rather than legitimate succession. Much of her claim to kingship also rested upon highly crafted propaganda. The divine birth and coronation reliefs at Deir el-Bahri portray Amun personally selecting Hatshepsut to rule Egypt, a narrative that conveniently appears only after she had already consolidated power. Sketchy indeed. To historians, these reliefs resemble less a divine revelation and more an ancient Egyptian public relations campaign, which wasn't too difficult considering Egypt was largely literate and full of poor slaves. If history's first rule is that the winner writes history, Hatshepsut practically carved hers into stone, pun intended. Furthermore, evidence from the reign of Thutmose III appears to support the notion that her rule was controversial. Decades after her rule, many of her statues were smashed, her cartouches erased, and her images removed from monuments across Egypt. Early historians interpreted this as an act of revenge by Thutmose III against the woman who had denied him his rightful throne. Historian Alan Gardner famously described this campaign as a vindictive persecution of her memory. Her carefully crafted propaganda and coincidental divine legitimacy raises the question: if Hatshepsut was truly a universally respected ruler, why did her success and co-ruler go to such lengths to erase her existence? To her critics, the answer is simple. Hatshepsut was not a great leader preserving Egypt's traditions, but a politically ambitious ruler who manipulated religion, appropriated power, and rewrote history in her favor. Can she really be considered the greatest ruler of the ancient world? Or among them for that matter? I don't think so. And yet, these criticisms credit her case and reveal the very qualities that make Hatshepsut a great leader. While her legitimacy may have relied upon propaganda, so too did that of virtually every Egyptian pharaoh. More importantly, propaganda alone cannot take complete credit for over 2 decades of political, diplomatic, and monumental prosperity. As historian Joyce Tittlesley argues, Hatshepsut proved herself an able and successful king, suggesting that her authority wasn't merely maintained through manipulation, but through effective governance of her nation. Furthermore, modern historians such as Peter Dorman contend that the later erasure of her monuments was likely motivated by dynastic concerns and worries of the memory left by a female ruler, rather than personal revenge, debunking the very idea that she was a naturally despised usurper. Ultimately, regardless of how she attained power, Hatshepsut's ability to strengthen Egypt, secure her reign, and leave a legacy that endured millennia after her death is precisely what qualifies her indoctrination into one of the greatest leaders of the ancient world.
After all, any ruler could convince an entire kingdom that the gods personally chose her, but build some of Egypt's greatest monuments and remain famous 3 millennia later? That's the stuff of legends and greats, and Hatshepsut ticks every single box. Did that change your mind?
Well,
Better
yeah.
question. Did that wake you up?
I'm already awake.